It's time to talk about corresponding angles, alternate interior and exterior angles, and consecutive interior angles. So all of those angle types that I just talked about are angle pairs. So for example, we can't just say that angle 3 is an alternate interior angle. Angle 3 and some other angle can both be alternate interior angles. And the reason that we get all of these weird angle pairs is because of this guy. This guy is called a transversal. And a transversal is basically where you have two different lines, and a transversal is like a third line that cuts through both of them. So let's first talk about corresponding angles. If you think about what the word correspond means, it kind of means if you have one thing somewhere, then it corresponds with like the same thing somewhere else. And that's why they're actually called corresponding angles. So let's say if you think of these four angles as like a little grid, their own little group. If you were to take, say, angle 2, which is the top right angle, then its corresponding angle would be the top right angle in this bottom set. So angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles. Another example of corresponding angles would be like, for example, angle 3, which is a bottom left angle, and angle 7, which is also a bottom left angle. 3 and 7 are corresponding. Now, for each of these pairs of angles, they have a special rule that only exists if these two lines are parallel. Remember that parallel lines are two lines that go on infinitely without crossing each other. And you can usually tell in like a picture like this if the two lines are parallel because they'll have a little arrow on them. If you see that two different lines have these little arrows on them, then that means they're parallel. And when these two lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are always going to be congruent, which means that they have the same angle measure. So let's say that these two lines are parallel, and let's say that angle 3 is 70 degrees. Well, that means its corresponding angle, which is angle 7, the other bottom left angle, also has to be 70 degrees. So that's a little special thing about corresponding angles. They always have the same measure, the same amount of degrees. All right, let's talk about the next type of angle, which is alternate interior. So first of all, the interior part suggests that they're inside these two lines. So we can automatically disqualify 1 and 2 and 7 and 8 because for angles to be alternate interior, they have to be on the inside of the two lines. So for example, if we had angle 3, its alternate interior is angle 6 because it's on the other side of this vertical line and it's also on the other side of the interior on the inside. Also, angle 4 and angle 5 would be alternate interior angles. They're on opposite sides of the wall and they're on opposite sides of the room, if you want to think of it that way. And the special rule for alternate interior angles is that they're congruent. So if you have two alternate interior angles, then they are the same angle measure. So just like the last one, if you have angle 4, and let's say it's 120 degrees, then angle 5 also has to be 120 degrees. The third type of angle is alternate exterior angles, and these are exactly the same, except they're on the exterior. So for this, we're disqualifying all of the ones that are inside of the room, inside of these lines, and we're only going to look at the angles that are on the outside. But other than that, the word alternate means exactly the same thing. So if we have angle 1, its alternate exterior is going to be angle 8. It's on the other side of the wall and on the other side of the graph. And if we had, for example, angle 7, its alternate exterior angle is angle 2. And the special rule is the same. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. So if angle 2 is 50 degrees, then angle 7 is also 50 degrees. And the final type of angle pair is consecutive interior. So for this, we're only going to look at angles that are interior, so ones that are inside of the lines. And consecutive is basically just the opposite of alternate. So while alternate angles were on opposite sides of the wall, like for example 3 and 6, consecutive interior angles are on the same side of the wall. So for example, angle 4 and angle 6 are consecutive interior. And another example would be angles 3 and 5. These are consecutive interior. They're both interior and they're on the same side of the wall. Now you may be able to tell by looking at these angles that these are probably not congruent. All the other ones we were able to say that they're the same amount of degrees. But this one looks a lot smaller than this one. Well, the special rule for consecutive interior angles is actually that they're supplementary. And supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So for example, if we knew that angle 5 was 130 degrees, then what does angle 3 have to be? Well, 180 minus 130 is 50. So angle 3 has to be 50 degrees because these two need to add up to 180. So let's go ahead and practice those different kinds of angles. So first, I want you to find a pair of corresponding angles. Well, there are many different kinds of pairs of corresponding angles here. Remember that they're basically just angles that are in the same spot. So if you said 1 and 5, then that would be correct because they're both top left angles. Or if you said 4 and 8, that would also be correct. Next, I want you to find alternate interior angles. Which two do you think would be alternate interior? Well, if you said angle 2 and 7, then you'd be correct because they're both interior and they're on opposite sides of the wall. Also, if you had said 4 and 5, that would have also been correct. Now, which two do you think would be alternate exterior angles? Go ahead and pause and see if you can figure it out. If you had said angles 1 and 8, that would be correct because they're on the exterior and they're on opposite sides of the wall. Or if you said 3 and 6, that would also be correct. And finally, which two do you think are consecutive interior? Well, if you said ones that are on the interior, like for example 4 and 7, that would be correct because they're on the same side of the wall. Or if you said 2 and 5, that would also be correct. So now you know about all those different weird kinds of angle pairs that you've probably been hearing about in class. So chances are that the reason you're learning these is so that you can use this information to solve proofs, which are probably the most complicated geometry topic. So if you want to learn the basics of writing a proof, you can watch this video right here. And as always, if you have any questions about this video, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer your question. Thanks for watching.